All right, so we've covered the why, the who, and the when of an audit. But now it's time for the how. Today, we're going boots on the ground. We're going to see how an audit is actually executed.
So let's really get into it. How do you find the truth inside a massive pharmaceutical plant? I mean, how do you really know if people are following the rules, if the paperwork is legit, and most importantly, if the product is safe? Well, it's a whole lot like detective work. And that's what we're doing today. We're going to follow the auditor as they hunt for clues and build their case right there on the factory floor. Every good investigation has to start somewhere, right? It needs a formal briefing. And in the world of pharmaceutical auditing, that's called the opening meeting. This isn't just a quick hello. It's the official kickoff of the audits. And believe me, it sets the tone for everything that's about to happen. Yeah, this meeting is way more than just a formality. It's all about setting clear rules of engagement. The auditor will introduce their team. They'll double-check the plan they sent ahead of time. Is the water system manager actually free at 10 a.m. like we planned? They'll explain how they're going to be sampling, who they need to talk to, and sort out all the practical stuff, like safety rules. And super important, they'll reassure everyone that what they find stays confidential. And here's the kicker. It has to be fast. We're talking 30 minutes tops. Why? Because the goal here is efficiency. You establish the ground rules, you show you're professional, and then you get out onto the factory floor. That's where the real evidence is, not sitting around a boardroom table for hours. Okay, so once they're on the floor, what are they looking for? Well, auditors can't just operate on a hunch or a feeling. No way. To make an official finding, they need something solid, something provable. They need what's called objective evidence, and they have this really cool three-pronged approach to get it. This right here, this is the gold standard. Objective evidence is what separates a vague feeling from a hard fact. It's the difference between an auditor saying, I think you might have a problem with your water sampling, and them saying, I can prove you have a problem because your own logbook shows sampling was missed on these 3 specific dates. See, one's an opinion, the other is an undeniable fact. And these 3 things, this is the auditor's toolkit in action. They don't just pick one and stick with it. Nope, they use all 3 all the time in a constant cycle. They'll ask an operator a question, then they'll watch them do the task, and then they'll go check the paperwork to see if it all lines up. That right there is the evidence triangle at work. So let's break down that toolkit, starting with the first piece of the triangle, inquiry. This is all about talking to people, but not just anyone, the people who are actually doing the work. They're the key witnesses in this whole investigation. But here's the secret. It's not just about asking questions. It's got asking the right kind of questions. And this shows you just how big a difference that makes. An auditor could ask, is this pH meter calibrated? And what are they going to hear? Yes. And they've learned absolutely nothing. But if they ask, show me how you calibrate this pH meter, now we're talking. The operator has to actually walk them through it. They have to show what they know. That open-ended question completely unlocks the real story. Here's a pro tip, a key skill for any auditor. After you ask one of those powerful, open-ended questions, you just wait. Be quiet. People get really uncomfortable with silence, and you'd be amazed what happens. They start talking, filling that silence with all sorts of crucial, unplanned details, stuff they would never have mentioned otherwise. It's such a simple technique, but man, is it effective. All right, next up in the toolkit, observation. This one's pretty straightforward, right? It's about using your own eyes to see what's really happening on the ground. It's about checking if what people say they do matches what they actually do, but there's a catch, a big one that every single auditor has to be aware of. It's called the Hawthorne effect. Auditors know that the second they walk into a room, people might change how they act. All of a sudden, everyone is following the procedure to the letter. So the big question is, how do you get a snapshot of reality before that effect kicks in and everyone is on their best behavior? Well, they have a little trick for that. It's called the 30-second rule. When they walk into a new room, they just stop, right at the doorway. And for 30 seconds, they just scan the whole area. They take it all in before they say hello to anyone. It gives them this quick, unfiltered look at how things normally are, before their presence changes anything. And what are they looking for in those 30 seconds? Literally everything. The physical stuff. Is that equipment resting? Is that pipe leaking? Then there's the human behavior. Is that person signing the logbook before they've even done the work? And they're also looking for what we call soft signals. A fresh patch of paint that might be hiding something or a pile of trash in the corner. Every single detail tells a piece of the story. Okay, that brings us to the final piece of our evidence triangle, examination. This is the paper trail. This is where the auditor connects all the dots, linking what they heard and what they saw with what's actually written down. Because in the world of pharmaceuticals, there's a saying, if it wasn't documented, it didn't happen, period. And when they dive into that paper trail, they usually use one of two main strategies. There's the vertical audit, where you follow one single thing from start to finish. Think of it like tracking one specific batch of product, from the raw materials coming in the door all the way to it being shipped out. Or they can do a horizontal audit, where they look for a pattern across a bunch of different things. For example, checking the training records for every single operator on 3 different packaging lines. And no matter what document they're looking at, a batch record, an equipment log, anything, it has to pass this fundamental test. We call it Alcoa Plus. Is it attributable? Meaning, do we know who wrote it? Is it legible? Can we even read it? Was it contemporaneous, recorded in real time? Is it the original record, not some copy scribbled on a napkin? And is it accurate? If a record fails on even one of these points, that piece of evidence is basically worthless. So after all that, after gathering all this evidence through asking, watching, and reading, the audit concludes exactly how it began, with a formal meeting. This time, it's the closing meeting, and this is where the auditor lays out everything they found. Now listen up, because this is probably the single most important rule of the closing meeting. No surprises. There should be absolutely zero surprises. Any issue, any problem the auditor brings up in this meeting must have already been discussed with the people on the factory floor. The closing meeting is just a formal summary, a way to confirm and acknowledge the findings with the management team. The agenda for this meeting is super professional and straight to the point. The auditor starts by thanking the team for their help. Then they give a quick, high-level summary. They clearly present each finding one by one and get acknowledgement. They might give a provisional grade, is this a major or minor issue? And then they lay out the next steps, when the final report is coming and when the company needs to respond. It's a clean wrap-up of the whole investigation. And, when you boil it all down, this is the real takeaway. The regulations, the guidelines, that's just the map. But what really leads an auditor to the most critical findings is genuine curiosity. That's the compass. It's that gut instinct to pull on a small, weird thread, like, why is a fire extinguisher propping open that door? That so often unravels the biggest problems. So the next time you think about the quality and safety of any medicine, I want you to remember this. Remember the intense detective work that goes into making sure it's safe. It's this whole process of asking, watching, and reading. So I'll leave you with this. If you were the auditor walking through that plant, what would catch your eye? What's the first thread you would pull?